From points north, east, west and south, we present Television Newsreel.
The Presbyterian General Assembly meeting in Wellington today spent more than 5 hours debating the controversy over the resurrection and the reaffirmation of the Church's faith.
The aftermath of tragedy. The inter-island steamer Wahine lies on its side today at the mouth of Wellington Harbour.
We're standing by now for the network news.
Three men would become a nightly institution and set new standards for news presenting.
Mainland China is to get a seat at the United Nations, but at the
The body of the Prime Minister, Mr. Kirk, is to lie in state at Parliament from tomorrow until Wednesday.
Worst disaster of any...
First pictures of Wednesday's Antarctic DC-10 disaster arrived in New Zealand today.
The great exodus is on from the two major festivals at Sweetwaters near Ngaruawahia.
Spaced out. He's got his trenches.
Good evening. Dozens of shots were fired this afternoon in downtown Auckland.
And the Marlborough Suns. Good evening. The commuter airliner crashed after the... Good evening. The central North Island is only now beginning to dry out after 2 days of torrential rain.
Tonight, helicopter crash kills 3. Famous rescue pilot is among them. Australian Prime Minister in Wellington for day of talks. And money pours in for 2-year-old in need of life-saving operation. Good evening. Network News for Friday, the 20th of November.
A public outcry after leukemia claims the life of this firefighter. Soviet hijackers and a hostage are sent packing from Israel. And the MOT hits the highways in a crackdown on pre-Christmas revelers. There's been outrage from family, firemen and politicians at the death of a firefighter in Auckland Hospital this weekend.
Gone 6. The deadline has expired. Now the world waits for war. Iraq remains defiant to the end. An effigy of Bush burns in Baghdad. The Kiwi contribution. Medics fly out to patch up the war wounded. And the partial eclipse. The moon does a slow waltz across the sun.
One Network News with Angela Dordney and Greg Clark.
Good evening.
Good evening. evening, New Zealand. Leading the mid-evening news, concerned Auckland women make moves to reclaim the night.
They meet to discuss how to stay safe as police hunt the city's serial rapists.
Sporting superstar Jonah Lomu scores a major sponsorship deal.
And a cuddly travelling companion gets a dream holiday on the house.
Our top story tonight, and Auckland communities making moves to make sure women protect themselves against rape.
Good evening, New Zealand. Leading tonight's One Network News, an injured missionary talks from her hospital bed in Hungary about the roadside attack that's left her husband dead.
A radio station's long-running billboard sit-in ends in a three-way tie.
It's a good feeling to be able to do what you want for more than 10 minutes anyway.
And in sport, the stomping Springbok gets his punishment after yesterday's over-vigorous rucking.
We begin tonight with a story of faith and forgiveness from a Kiwi missionary who's been left a widow in an horrific, unprovoked attack in Hungary. Good evening, New Zealand. Leading tonight's One Network News, celebrations for the Alliance as the United States deals a body blow to a global agreement on investment.
Te Papa has hailed a huge success as thousands stretch the museum's resources.
And the Kiwi cricketers favour a rare double over their Aussie rivals.
Government trade officials are scrambling tonight to confirm reports that the United States is pulling out of a controversial agreement on global investment.
Tonight on One News, it's all cheer for Tony Blair. Labour gains a second ringing endorsement to rule Britannia.
There is no greater honour than to serve you as Prime Minister. And you have given us, tonight, an historic moment for the Labour Party.
A new political row brews over the development of Whitianga wasteland.
There could be a Maori rebellion over this.
One of Robert Muldoon's closest political allies has died. We pay tribute to Duncan McIntyre.
And how they're trying to tame the tiger, the bid to make a Kiwi course more difficult for the world's best. Our top story, a history-making Labour landslide in Britain. Tony Blair's become the first British Labour leader to win successive general elections. Tonight, the $50 million flood claims pour in as hundreds of people flee their homes. A surprise admission from this man ends a 16-year-old murder mystery. A day of racial tension turns into a rampage in a Sydney neighbourhood. And moving close to Oscar glory, the return of the King is crowned in Britain. Good evening. The lower North Island is still swamped tonight and the rain keeps falling. Tonight, zip zap kapow, an FPOS blowout short-circuits the present hunt as bank workers close up shop. So this is Christmas? Why the Barbie plans might need a rethink as you prepare for the festive break. Following in some very ancient footsteps, the tracks that tell so much about a neighbour's past. And where it all began, on the trail of the truth about the big bearded guy in red. Good evening. It was 90 minutes of chaos and it hit Christmas shoppers up and down the country.
Tonight, publish and be damned. Muslim anger grows over a cartoon controversy and some say New Zealand could suffer. Hopes fade for hundreds feared dead in one of the world's worst shipping disasters. A frantic effort to save a pod of dolphins stranded in Northland. And playing their cards close to their chest, the weird and the wackier at the sevens, dressed to impress. Plus, National admits its treaty time frame is too tough, and Hollywood closes ranks over the New Zealand-born director busted in a sexting. But first up tonight, controversial cartoons mocking a Muslim prophet are proving to be no laughing matter here in New Zealand.
Tonight, saluting a hero, the bravest of the brave, who's been surrounded by a legion of fans in his hometown. Taking a bridge too fast, a teenager dies after a police chase. Is this another case of boy racing? Now he'll be forging a French connection. Wellington fans get to say ooh-ah, oomanga for the last time. And why these Kiwis are getting all glammed up to grace the land of the king. Good evening. He's a soldier who doesn't like a lot of fuss, but today there was no escaping it for Willie Apiata. It was all about him at a special homecoming for Te Kaha's war hero.
The heavy rain has been spreading southwards over eastern parts of the South Island today. Some big totals recorded, and the rain falling as snow up in the ranges. The storm isn't finished with us yet. I'll tell you where more heavy rain is forecast within the hour. Right now, it's 6 o'clock.
This is One News with Simon Dallow and Bernadine Oliver Kirby.
Tonight, the extreme weather moves down country. Torrential rain swamps the South Island, causing widespread chaos and closing its major highway. Our cameras are in the hardest hit areas.
Battered by high winds, take a look at this. One News talks exclusively to the driver of this car.
Why Māori activist Tame Iti's wielding a big stick and seeing eye to eye with the government.
And the heartfelt song that's brought the King of Tonga to tears.
Kia ora, good evening. The storm that's caused so much trouble for the north hit the south with full force today.
This is One News with Rawdon Christie and Alison Moore.
The view from inside Christchurch's shattered central business district tonight as retailers are taken into the fenced-off areas to see what's left of their businesses.
Plus, their historic home survived the big earthquake, but another shake's proving more damaging.
The rush for Boxing Day bargains, but was it the bonanza retailers were banking on?
And it's an extra special present. Hear the work that's gone into restoring a church's sweet sound.
Good evening. We're back in the quake disaster zone tonight as anxious business and homeowners get a clearer picture of the damage.
Winter sure has touched down. It's been snowing on Arthur's Pass and the Desert Road. Hawera's had gales, Napier's been drenched, and Manapuri got out of bed to -5. Now things are improving, but be prepared for hard, scything frosts. The big picture coming up. Right now, it's 6 o'clock.
This is One News with Simon Dallow and Wendy Petrie.
Tonight, news is coming in about New Zealand troops caught in an attack on a Kabul hotel. Also, distress for hundreds of laid-off meat workers in Hawke's Bay sent home with gumboots as a parting gift.
The backlash is building. Retailers respond to outrage over Maxina King's book on the deaths of her babies.
He beat his dog to death and he's going to jail. But is it long enough? We gauge reaction.
And a shocking car seat experience for this mum and baby brings questions over safety standards.
Kia ora, good evening. As we go to air tonight, we're learning about New Zealand military involvement in efforts to repel a deadly attack on a hotel in Afghanistan's capital.
Good evening, everybody. The sunshine is taking control again after yesterday's southerly interloper, but it nailed Taupō down to 2 degrees last night. Now a new high-pressure balloon is rolling out the beach weather once again, but not for that long. Stay tuned for details. Right now, it's 6 o'clock.
This is One News with Simon Dallow and Wendy Petrie.
Tonight, finally forced out.
Okay. Is this all right? Is everybody happy with this?
Unhappy campers, Occupy protesters vow to battle on after police move in to evict them.
A small plane crashes near a residential area, killing 2 people. We hear from eyewitnesses.
The alleged Mr. Big of a global internet piracy ring applies for bail as some question why he was allowed here in the first place.
And why the Canterbury Quakes are now hitting insurance policy holders across the country.
Kia ora, good evening. A standoff continues tonight between Occupy Auckland protesters and the authorities.
Quieter today as the active trough slides away to the east. Now we have a large high moving in, and later in the news hour I'll tell you if we'll get any more rain before it arrives. Right now it's 6 o'clock.
More money's being ploughed into the Novo Pay debacle, but is it enough to placate angry teachers?
Who's the chief? While a Māori party leadership rift threaten its relationship with the government.
And Tiger's hooked again. See his new girlfriend, who's a regular visitor to New Zealand.
Kia ora, good evening. Schools hit by the Novo Pay debacle will get a share of $6 million in taxpayer compensation.
Hello there, I'm Daniel Corbett, new weatherman for One News. Well, weather-wise today, we had high pressure, a good-looking day, but it's packing its bags, it's heading out the door, and rain is lurking out in the Tasman Sea with quite a weather system, rain warnings as well. All the details coming up, but right now, it's 6 o'clock.
Kia ora, good evening. Hello, some of us managing some sunshine today. For a lot of us, though, it was thickening cloud, 1 or 2 showers around, the beginnings of what is quite an active weather system. That's going to be coming in for Sunday. It's wet, it's windy, it's thundery in places too. It's more of a day for the indoor board games. All the details coming up. Right now, it's 6 o'clock.
Well, I think like anything, it's like a marriage, you have to work at it.
Renewing our vows with Sri Lanka on diplomacy and dairy, but did the PM address the human rights elephant in the room? Well, Wellington's big push to be the world's first smoke-free capital could already be going up in smoke. Hundreds party their way to a cheap shopping mania as H&M opens in Auckland. What these silent protesters wanted to say. And he's got this man mountain to conquer tonight, but find out why Joseph Parker's quest to be the world's best may have just got a whole lot easier. Kia ora, good evening. Dairy, diplomacy, meat and elephants, the recipe for John Key's strengthened relationship with Sri Lanka.
Well, not a bad start to daylight saving. The warm northwesterly airstream establishing itself over New Zealand. Eastern areas rising into the 20s. But the weather dial gets a giant twist to the right this evening. Northwesterlies rise to gale and the west coast is set for another dousing. Your weather warnings and today's news. Right now, it's 6 o'clock.
Well, we can't all win a seat, right? Not even Winston Peters can win a seat.
He can still see the funny side. Winston Peters to decide who'll be in the next government. What will he want? And how long will the country have to wait? It's raining balloons for National, but tough negotiations are on the way after a comeback for Bill English.
Just short of half of all New Zealanders voted National.
While Jacinda Ardern hopes votes yet to be counted will bring Labour a whisker closer.
But I'm hopeful we'll see a bit of a lift out of them.
And emotions run high as the Māori Party is knocked out of Parliament after more than a decade. Kia ora, good evening. Who will lead the next government remains up in the air tonight.
Tonight, fire investigation. What caused the fatal Dunedin blaze that's left 2 people dead? A neighbour tells One News how she helped save an elderly resident. Also tonight, military manoeuvres. Tanks and ground troops roll into Syria as Turkey shows off its firepower in a major attack on Kurdish rebels, sparking international tensions. And the happy couple, but has the Prime Minister slipped up? Did Jacinda Ardern reveal the baby's gender?
No, I did not. And I know in defending myself, we could get into a whole other conversation, but no, I didn't.
Kia ora, good evening. Extra police have been called in to investigate a deadly unexplained fire in
tonight on One News. 2 people killed in a terrorist attack on London Bridge. Bystanders hailed as heroes. A pat on the back and a call for action. We're live from Labour's annual party conference, how they're gearing up for next year's election. And we're at the opening of the country's 10th Great Walk, the scenic tribute to those killed in the Pike River mine disaster. Kia ora, good evening. Members of the public have been called heroes for stopping a terrorist in London.
Tonight on One News, the flooding emergency triggers toxic fears in Southland. The extent of overflowing water clear from the air as hundreds of people are evacuated. And the New Zealanders evacuated from China are nearly home. We're live at Auckland Airport for touchdown amid tight security. How passengers will be processed.
Kia ora, good evening. 2 big stories still developing right now dominate tonight's One News. These are live pictures coming in from Auckland International Airport.
Tonight on One News, weather disruptions in several places as the cold snap continues. While keen skiers queue for hours to enjoy the snow, what's now got farmers in the south on high alert. The hangover from a boozy night out forces Wellington's Mayor Tory Whānau to make an embarrassing admission. And 2 of our top sports stars in sizzling form overseas.
Disbergen to the inside and to the lead of turn 2.
Also flying, sprinter Zoe Hobbs, how she's fast-tracked her way to the Olympics. Kia ora, good evening. The wintry blast sweeping New Zealand is still causing issues in several parts of the country tonight. Tonight on One News, the end of News Hub with confirmation operations will shut down.
Don't make us cry, Kim.
Putting on brave faces, what presenters and reporters were told behind closed doors at 3 and here at TVNZ as the Sunday team also learned their fate. Being blocked off, just one of the issues piling up for many West Coasters as heavy rain continues to smash parts of the South Island. Plus,
unfortunately, I can't speak any other languages fluently.
Or can he? When reaching out to someone on the other side of the world, how AI is now helping people overcome language barriers.
那我怎么可能会说中文呢？如果我能够流利地说法语，其实不会。
No mai ki ngā pito kōrero o te wā. Welcome to One News this evening. Decades of TV journalism is ending with News Hub and TVNZ's current affairs flagship Sunday going off air.